Good morning, artists. I am so excited to be back with you. I took almost a 2-week break to move, and this is my new studio. I still have a lot of things to set up and stuff to put in the background. Having a lot of fun doing that, though. And I'm tired. I'm a little tired. It's been a lot of work, but it's been such a blessing to have a home of our own. We're not renting anymore, so we're really excited about that. And to be back in the city where it feels like home, because we were here for a long time and then we had to take a year to rent because of a crazy situation with losing my job and not being able to buy the house that we wanted. Anyway, we're back. We love it. So excited, so happy, so blessed and grateful. But today we are talking about color resist. And color resist, I call it a master technique because I haven't yet mastered it. It's very hard to do, but it's so cool when it happens. And for me, it often happens by mistake, surprisingly. And that was the case here with Gwith. So this is an example. I have a print of this painting, and it's hard to see. But right there, that little pink dot is color resist. So that's where I dropped opera pink in, I'm pretty sure by accident, by mistake. And it pushed the color underneath it away and looks so cool. And up here too. It happened. I think I probably did that one more on purpose. But you can say, well, gosh, isn't that just putting color on your painting? And yes, it is. But it can look really cool when it actually pushes the color underneath it away. So that's what we're going for. We don't always achieve that, but we sure do hope to. So I'm going to be painting on one of my favorite papers, so Fabriano Studio 140 pound cold pressed paper. That's what I have right here for the demo. The sample painting that I'm going to put this into practice with will be on 300 pound Fabriano rough paper. So you can get your Paint 333 supply list at paint333.com. No surprise there. So here is a quick demo I did. Example of, and this looks so messy, right? But it's helpful. It's very helpful because color resist acts differently depending on the colors that you use. So each paint has unique properties and it will take to color resist in different ways. So I just kind of tested all 7 of my colors on all 7 of my colors. And I tried to, it looks very sporadic because I had to test it in areas that were still just barely wet. Just very barely wet, so I had to do it in weird areas. And from this test, I kind of concluded, based on the paints that I use, and these are American Journey paints, that I have 2 colors that look really good as the base. So Opera Pink, I think, takes to color resist really well, where you can see that all the colors we put on top of Opera Pink, we're actually pushing the Opera Pink away, and that's what we're going for with color resist. And the same, surprisingly, I was surprised by this, was neutral tint. You can really see, look at how ultramarine blue pushed neutral tint away. Like you cannot see neutral tint underneath this ultramarine. Same with the cobalt. Really cool how that worked. And the quinacridone gold really pushed it away as well. So, based on this test, all the colors I think work for color resist to a certain extent, but these 2 colors for the base really, really performed well. And then the same is true for cobalt teal and quinacridone gold as an overlay color. So you can see in these examples where we have put down cobalt teal that it is really pushing away the color underneath. So that's a great color choice to use for the overlay color on top of your base color. And the same is true with quinacridone gold. You can really see where we put quinacridone gold, it pushed the color underneath it. Oh, that's azo yellow. It pushed the color underneath it away, especially on those nice base colors. So that's kind of what I came up with, and this was just really helpful for me. And I encourage you, if you're interested in learning and trying to dive into and perfect color resist on your own, to test out the paints that you have, because it's going to be different than how my paints behaved. So I always talk about the 333 method, right? And one of those 3 things is the 3 properties. So we have properties of paint, of paper, paint, and your brush. So how wet is your paper? For Color Resist, and we're going to have almost dry. It's going to be almost dry, very close to being dry, but it cannot be dry. If it is, it will not work at all, and you're just going to be putting another layer of paint over that dry paint. Your paint should be a heavy mix. So you want it to be a heavy mix. I feel like it could potentially work with a watery mix, so that's something that you could experiment with. But a heavy mix of paint will likely produce the most dramatic result. And then for your brush, what I'm going to say is usually I do a blotted brush, a dry brush, or a wet brush. And oftentimes I find myself kind of just swiping my brush on the palette. So I'm going to say that we're going to be looking for a swiped brush. And what I mean by that is if we're getting some color, like a heavy mix of opera pink here. Right now this is a wet brush, right? I just loaded it onto my brush and it's full of paint. So that would be what I would call a wet brush. Now, if we're looking for a blotted brush, I would go ahead and go over here and blot it on my towel a little bit. That would be a blotted brush. And then a dry brush would be just straight paint with very, very, very little water on hopefully a brush that we haven't even really dipped in the water yet. But I'm thinking, what if we call it a swiped brush, where we take a nice heavy mix, but then swipe it along the edge of our palette to remove a lot of that extra paint without necessarily removing as much as blotting would remove. So that's what I mean when I say swiped brush. So let's go ahead and demo. I'm going to demo those two base colors that I thought worked really well. Opera Pink, and the opera pink that I'm using, which is American Journey, is a pigment code. I think it's PR122, don't quote me on that, but I think it is, which is the same that you would find in quinacridone and magenta. So that's pretty exciting. And opera pink, the color that I'm using with American Journey, it's also called like wild fuchsia or rich opera. There's a couple different names for it. So I have my dry paper and I'm laying down a heavy mix of color right onto that dry paper, and we're going to let it hang out and chill and get to that almost dry stage. And I'm going to do the same thing with a nice swatch of neutral tint. Now, neutral tint I found too really varies by brand. A lot of neutral tint has like a violet undertone, which can be really, really pretty. Okay, so now we kind of need to let that hang out. And what I want to do is I want to demo my two overlay colors, Cobalt Teal and Quinacridone Gold, on those base colors to see how they look. So I like to just kind of see how that's still pretty shiny. It's a good way, like checking it against light, I feel like is a really good way to see what drying stage it's at. And we didn't add a ton of water here, so I think it's going to dry pretty fast. So I'm going to just get started. Let's start with the Quinacridone Gold. Actually, I'm going to get a nice, so I'm kind of getting that heavy mix, swiping it on the edge of the palette. And I'm going to do the same thing, get another brush. I have my size 6 round brushes and get some Cobalt Teal. So I have a nice heavy mix of color, a nice swiped brush. And let's just see what happens. When you can see, it's kind of neat to see the difference in this area that already got really dry compared to that area that is still a little bit more wet. But you can just see how it's pushing the pigment away. It's not just kind of combining or overlaying itself on top of the color. It's actually physically like moving it, which it's just so cool. It's just so cool what watercolor does. But it's hard to achieve this. I know of an artist and I wanted to find out who she was before this demo. If I find her, because I don't remember her name, I will link her. I will put that in the video's description for a replay, because she does this on purpose with wonderful success. I'm so impressed on it. It's like her art is something that I just want to look at and look at. I love it. So, and she does this very well. She's definitely a master at color resist. It just looks so cool. How fun is that? It's just so exciting. You just want to have fun with it. So you could do a lot of fun things with this. There's so many possibilities, but you know that I'm a pet portrait person. So I'm going to be demoing, hopefully with success. This is live. I can't edit this out. We're going to try. How I'm going to do this on a dog ear. And this is a very big painting. So we're going to see how it fits over here. Okay. We have Petey here today with us. And I'm going to move this. Here we go. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. This is a challenge, isn't it? All right, so here's Petey's ear. And it's kind of hard to see because I have it lightly drawn so that it doesn't show through too much when I actually start painting in. So this ear goes up and goes over here, and I want to show you the reference photo that I'm doing with this. So this is Petey, and we're going to be painting that ear that's up on top that you can see. So lucky for us, we are going to be using Opera Pink, Quinacridone Gold, Neutral Tint, because those are the colors in his ear. It's going to work perfectly. So I'm going to do my 3-step process here where we paint with water, and then let's see, that shadow is there we go. We drop in color and we finish with texture techniques, and in our case, we're going to be finishing with that beautiful color resist. But it's an ear, I'm going to be using some other texture techniques too. Definitely going to be employing my grainer brush for that white hairy edge he has along the edge, the side of his ear. Looks so cool. So I'm just adjusting here a little bit what I can see on my end. Yes, Kelly says like how pushy the Quinacridone Gold is. Pushy is the perfect way to describe Quinacridone Gold. So I hope that we all have a little bit more success finding Quinacridone Gold in the future, because it is just such a beautiful color. And it's hard to replicate it, as I found. So, yep, core watercolor into another brand. Okay, cool. Kelly, that's really good advice. Thank you for sharing that with us. So, let's see. We're going to start with painting water. And I'm going to take into account that white hairy edge that he has right here. So I'm not going to paint that because I want to pull color into that to make that edge. So I'm going to grab my dirty water, and hopefully you'll be able to see that a little bit better. I think you can. So we're just going to grab, and I'm never too crazy precise with ears. Ears are so fun to paint. They have to be probably my favorite thing to paint, actually, because there's just so much room to have fun with them. They don't have to be accurate like a nose or a mouth. Just a ton of fun. Oh, there we go. That'll do it, huh? That wasn't quite intentional there. There we go. So I'm leaving some of that hairy edge. That side, I think I kind of want to leave a little bit of a white space between those two shapes. And just making sure I have enough water in here. And you can almost see how the color that's in my dirty water is sinking into those little divots in the rough paper. Again, that's why I use rough paper. It's so pretty how that works. So we're going to grab a couple of our round brushes so we can have a different color on each one. And I'm just going to start with my Quinacridone Gold, because Petey has this beautiful gold edge to his ears. And I'm seeing that we're definitely going to need some buff titanium. So let's grab And some opera pink too. And then maybe a little bit of purple, and you can't see my palette. Hold on. We're gonna get there. There we go. So that was just quinacridone gold. I'm gonna grab some buff titanium. And hopefully it'll start kind of doing some fun things with the quinacridone here. And let's get another brush for our opera pink. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I feel like I've been away so long, but it hasn't been that long. Sometimes it's nice to take breaks. You kind of really appreciate it when you get to come back. And I feel like we need a little bit of purple. So I have my secondary kind of wells in the middle of my palette where I already have some of my opera pink and my ultramarine blue mixed together. So I'm going to put a little bit of that pretty purple right along the edge. And maybe a little bit right here too. Now, it's funny because you can see in action how when I tried to put that purple right here, nothing happened because it's so wet that it basically, my brush is just picking up the water that's on the paper. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more of that water, and then maybe I'll have some luck putting some color down. I got to make sure I have a lot of color on my brush for it to actually go somewhere. So that's good. That's a little bit more successful there. There we go. So I have my grainer brush. I'm just gonna dip that in water, blot it, and just makes the bristles a little bit softer, I think. And then I'm gonna pull color, and we've talked about pulling color a lot. Just a really fun and easy way to create that hairy texture that we are looking for with our pet portraits. And let's see, I might want a little bit down here too. Okay, I love that. I think we need more buff titanium. We have a lot going on. And let's see, I'm on a little bit more of a pinky purple. Gosh, that's a lot. It's a lot of water pulling right here, right? That's a lot. I'm just gonna pick a little bit of that up. So we haven't even demoed color resist yet with this ear. We're gonna get there. I also love how things dry when you do have a big pool of water and color on them. So it's a balancing act of getting as much color as I want on there and where I can actually work with it, you know. A huge big pool of color you can't really manipulate a lot. So it is just a little bit of a balancing act between having that water on there so it dries in cool ways and also being able to work with it the way you want to. And that's so pretty. I don't think I want to manipulate that. It's just really beautiful. You see that? Oh, so pretty. So now let's think about color resist. And we know that our opera pink, it's a good base color. Quinacridone gold is a good top color. But with that example of Gwith that I showed at the beginning, those color resist areas, if you can see that little tiny dot, and up here we're opera pink. So opera pink could be a lot of fun. So now I'm just trying to see if there's any area that's actually dry enough for our color resist. And I'm not sure that there is quite yet. Maybe there is. Oh yeah, down here is looking really cool. And so sometimes I just do these abstract-y shapes see what happens. Could we get some with buff titanium? And these aren't necessarily shapes we're seeing in the ear, but that's okay because you have that artistic license to put them wherever you like, wherever you think they look cool. I like how this buff titanium is actually doing for this. It is pushing the color away a little bit and looking kind of neat. I'm just seeing if maybe I can soften this edge into the hairy shape a little bit better. Up, right there. That looks good. So I still have buff titanium. I love what happened with that. That looks really cool. Let's see if maybe we can get maybe some hairy shape color resist happening. Yeah, I'd say that worked. That looks cool. Sometimes I go over it, the same shape that I put down, just to give it another layer, because we know that watercolor dries lighter too. So if something really cool happened that I want to emphasize, I'll kind of go back over it. Now let's see. Now what could look cool is if I combined opera pink with buff titanium, and maybe I was able to achieve a little bit of a color resist with that. I'm trying to think where to put it. This is pretty. I think that's all I really kind of want to do. Maybe grab a little bit more of this. And I love dropping in water too, just to push this pigment towards the edge. So we got to think about all the texture techniques that we want to do before it dries. This looks really cool. I might add another layer to that when it does dry completely. What would happen if I added some water here and lifted some of that color, made it a little bit lighter? That could look cool. Okay, really happy with that. I think it's just a matter of maybe I want another layer, maybe, down the road. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, this would be a stage where I would maybe play with it a little bit more, but also really love it. So I don't think I needed to do too much more than that. Okay, so while we're looking at this and watching it dry, and admiring the granulation and all the fun things that are happening there, we have what I think I'm just going to call Supply Week next week, because we are featuring 3 different supply videos. So we have, let's see, I think we have Inktense on Tuesday, Inktense pencils, one of my favorite supplies ever. And we have, let's see, I think I have a thing I can show you with this, if I can get it up. My calendar. Here we go. So you can kind of see in the corner there, I switched it to my calendar, where we have, yes, Inktense on Tuesday. So we're going to be painting a discus fish together with Inktense pencils. We're going to have so much fun with that. And of course, with the supply video, I have to do a giveaway. So I will be doing a giveaway of Inktense pencils on the 22nd. And then the 24th, we have another paint along, another full paint along of this Dachshund dog. So excited for that. I've had a couple of students say, how do I put gold next to black in a pet portrait? And that's a really good question because that is a challenge. And we're going to go through how to do that, how I approach that so that we have success and that we don't get green unless we want green. Then we can get green. Then it's okay if you want it. And then, of course, on the 26th, we have what was originally a surprise, and now it's been confirmed. I have a bunch of supplies from Meeden, and I'm going to be specifically reviewing their Meeden paper, which is also called Bohong, but I think it's now all kind of under the Meeden brand name. So we'll be doing that on Saturday, and I'll have a lot of giveaways for that. I think I'm going to have like 5 paper packs and some other fun things that I'm going to throw in there. Tons of fun, and then we'll be wrapping up this month with a live Q&A and a surprise paint along. So we have 3 paint alongs coming up, which is awesome because originally I was thinking, let's cool it on the paint alongs, but I don't want to anymore. They don't perform very well on YouTube. They don't perform in terms of giving me new subscribers, but I think the people that I'm already subscribed, I love them. So it's like, okay, those are the people that I want to serve. So YouTube is also lead generation for me. It's, it's something to grow my business. So I do want to attract new people, which is why I do like the technique videos and the supply videos. But I want to make sure I'm taking care of everybody who's already here and already investing their time with me. And those are the people that I really, really appreciate. So I'm going to keep doing paint alongs. I thought, oh gosh, that was a mistake to not throw paint alongs in there. Anyway. So we have a surprise paint along, and I'm going to pick a paint along picture from one of you who submitted your art up until that point. So I'm going to pick one. I'm super excited to share that with you and to share the photos that you have that you want me to paint. Tons of fun. And then, of course, we'll be sharing the May calendar on April 29th. So a ton of fun things to look forward to. Super excited about that. Of course, we're wrapping up today with our demo of Color Resist, and I really hope this was helpful for you and got you excited to just see what your paint is capable of. And like I said, it's a hard technique. I don't have it down yet. It's not fail-proof for me at all. So give yourself a lot of grace and just enjoy the process of being able to work with the paint and seeing what happens with it because it's just so fun. So fun. I'm looking at this as it's drying, and I really just like this little tiny dot of buff titanium. That I thought that looks really cool. So that's kind of what we want to achieve, is like those little moments in the painting where you just have to say, how did they do that? And you know how you did it, but they won't know how you did that. That makes it a lot of fun. So thank you for joining me. So we have, let's see, I would love to paint 2 dogs, but I'm terrible at sketching. Yeah, I can sketch, but it takes me forever to do so. So I trace, and I do have a video about that, Ange, about tracing. So this was traced. I trace every painting now because I realize that the fun part for me is painting, not drawing. So that's what I do. And it's just a tool. So definitely have fun. Whatever, why are you painting in the first place? If you love drawing, you should draw. If you love painting, you should paint. If you love both, you can do both. It's really up to you and your practice. So I worry about placing a water container in the white space of my painting, yes. Well, that's the thing. So like we have a little splash right here, you can see, and it's just fine. It's actually, I used to be so worried about that, about making sure my paintings were perfect, that I didn't have splatters or any kind of mistakes or paint runs. And not only if you are worried about that, your paintings will look tight, right, and kind of too controlled and stiff, but it makes the whole process of painting not so much fun anymore. So I let go of that a long time ago, and now I'm free. And then if I get a big mistake, that's why I have Kleenex handy, and I can grab those mistakes right away, because that's when you need to take care of those right away, and then you don't even really have to worry about it. And it's just kind of a much more fun, and it lends itself to looser painting, which is something we all strive for with watercolor. A lot of fun. So thank you all so much for being here from all over the world. This is just a ton of fun. So I'm really looking forward to painting alongside you guys again next week for Supply Week. I hope you will all join me. and we will see you next time. Very, very happy painting!